Former National Security Advisor John Bolton drops by and takes us into the room where it happened. His new book. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Ambassador John Bolton is on the line with us. His new book, The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir, is out and extraordinary. Ambassador Bolton, it's been a few years since you've been on our show. Thank you for showing up today. I'm curious. You have said in other interviews that you don't want to talk about whether you specifically told Donald Trump that the Russians were paying bounties to kill Americans, but certainly you're reading the news reports right now. I'm curious your take on that issue and in general right now as it appears.
Well, the White House story changes from day to day, or sometimes even within a given day. But I do understand that as of earlier on Wednesday, they're acknowledging that there's at least what they call raw intelligence out there to this effect, and it's still being verified and so on and so forth. But look, I think when you get reports of Russians paying bounties to Taliban to try and kill American service members, you're really talking about something that's just as serious as direct Russian efforts to kill American service members. In the world of intelligence, look, in the world of open source knowledge in government, you're always faced with some level of uncertainty, and that's just part of the way things are. Intelligence doesn't come neatly sealed saying this is fully verified, you can believe it, and the rest of it you can't. So I think having a response to this, thinking about what a response is something that's very important. And for the president to go out of his way to say, well, I didn't know anything about this, leaves me very worried. It may be he's concerned about his failed peace deal with the Taliban. I don't really know what to attribute it to, but the whole thing has been disturbing, and it's a signal to our adversaries, not just the Russians, but to others, that once again we don't have our act together.
We have watched members of the Trump family, Jared Kushner, traveling around the Middle East looking for $1 billion to bail out his building. Trump's daughter, cutting deals with the Chinese and getting all these patents and trademarks and things. These allegations right here being part of a larger fabric of all the times that Trump has genuflected, not just to Putin, but to other dictators. Erdogan appears to be fairly high on his list of he snaps his fingers and Trump jumps. And I do recall a year or two ago, Erdogan actually making a comment that Trump owns 2 hotels in Turkey and Erdogan could pull a plug on them. I'm curious your thoughts on a second Trump term. To the extent that he appears to have sold out his country so far, how much worse could it get?
Well, I am worried about a second Trump term. I think the damage that's been done in the first term is repairable. I feel very confident of that. But I'm worried in a second term that the lack of confidence that he's generated in our closest allies, the feeling among our adversaries that they know how to play him, that they think he's an easy mark, that a lot of these attributes that have been demonstrated in the first term will really be exploited in a second term. So it's to me, it's not a happy election prospect here. I mean, for the first time in my adult life, I'm not going to vote for the Republican presidential nominee. I did in 2016. I thought, given the alternatives, it was worth taking the risk on Trump, so I did vote for him in 2016. But after 17 months in the administration, and in good conscience, I just can't do it this time.
Given how enthusiastically Mike Pence has basically sucked up to Donald Trump, if Trump were not to be the candidate, and there's a variety of scenarios that posit that, and Mike Pence is the candidate coming out of the Republican convention, what are your thoughts about what that means for the future were he to get elected?
Well, I don't want to get Pence in trouble, but if for whatever reason he were on the ballot as the presidential nominee this November, I would vote for him. Look, it is being vice president is probably really the hardest job in government in some respects. Unlike the rest of us who work for a president, the vice president really has no option of resigning. He was elected in the Electoral College. He needs to serve out his term. It's very hard to serve with discretion in that position, and I think Pence has done the best he can in a very difficult place.
Okay. The CNN is reporting that H.R. McMaster, Defense Secretary James Mattis, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, John Kelly, have all at various times used the phrase, or a similar phrase, this is a quote from CNN, the president is often delusional in his conversations with foreign leaders, particularly with strongman foreign leaders. But, there's reports now about how he was trashing Angela Merkel, for example, to her face. Calling her stupid. She's got a PhD in physics. How delusional is he? I mean, is he really that disconnected from reality or is this just, he's just a bizarre person with weird beliefs?
Well, the book, which some people have complained is too long and too detailed, is designed to put facts in front of people and let them make up their own minds. I mean, it's got conclusions and opinions in it, but that's not really the reason I wrote it. And the president does have trouble with facts. There's no doubt about it. Things that don't suit him get changed. Numbers come and go. I mean, you never know exactly what he's going to say. But I think if people look at the evidence, they can draw their own conclusions. I'm not writing bumper stickers. I'm not a shrink myself. As I say, my opinions are in there. You can't miss them. But I hope they don't get in the way of the facts. People can disagree, but I've written this down as best I could. I've tried to be as accurate as I could. I didn't write the book just for this election season. Really, I wrote it to be around 50 years from now when the players are no longer on the scene, so that people will know what it was really like inside the room where it happened.
There are some Republicans who are talking about the possibility that with the COVID chaos this fall, we could end up with a couple of large Republican states. The ones that I've heard mentioned more than once are Florida and Texas. After the election saying, sorry, we just can't certify this election, which would, under the 12th Amendment, throw the election to the House of Representatives, where Donald Trump would get reelected. Each state has one vote under the 12th Amendment. Have you heard anything like that? And do you think that might be part of a strategy that Trump would pull out of the hat?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence of that, and I just think it's important that critics of the president, and I suppose I'm among that number now, publicly need to base their criticism on evidence. But I will tell you this, I feel, just as a citizen, I think voting ought to be in person whenever possible. We're able to do it all on one day, something that couldn't be done in the early years of the country. I think it's an act of civic participation for everybody to go out to vote. I think you can find ways to social distance, and people can wear masks in the polling places. I think that's an aspiration we should look for. I think absentee ballots should be the exception, not the rule. And it's because of this possibility of chaos. I think this time around it's even more important. I'm worried about the delay. Look, I spent 33 days in Florida in the contest of the Florida election in 2000. That's not anything I ever want to go through again, and I certainly hope we don't see it this fall.
Ambassador Bolton, thanks for dropping by today.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Good talking with you. Ambassador John Bolton, his book is The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir, former National Security Advisor of the United States.